Hi there, I'm Gideon Rose, and welcome to another edition of Foreign Affairs Focus. We have the good fortune to be here today with Marty Feldstein, George Baker Professor of Economics at Harvard, former head of the National Bureau of Economic Research, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Advisory Board. He's also the author of a number of articles over the years in foreign affairs, including one in our January-February issue called The Failure of the Euro, the Little Currency That Couldn't. So, Marty, you opened this piece, which is a sort of bookend to another famous one you did 15 years ago, predicting the euro's failure, by saying the euro should now be recognized as an experiment that has failed. So, why did the euro fail, and is it really inevitable that it's going to break up?
It failed in two senses. It failed in its political mission. The original idea was that by having a single currency, it was going to propel the countries to come together to form a United States of Europe. That was going to eliminate conflict among those countries. Anybody who's read the newspaper in the last 6 months realizes that they're not really close to a United States of Europe, and there's a lot of conflict between Germany particularly and others. It also failed in an economic sense, in that, and I think that was quite predictable, because trying to put a dozen, as it originally was, 17 now, very different countries into a single currency, a single exchange rate, when those countries are so different in their economics, wasn't going to work, and we're seeing the results of that.
But even if the marriage was troubled, is divorce really an option? I mean, don't European countries have to stay in it for the children?
Well, some of the children may leave, but I think the family will stay together. It's not a guarantee. It could unravel, but I think Greece will leave probably pretty soon.
Will that help Greece or hurt Greece, and will it help Europe and the ones who remain, or will it hurt it?
I think it will be better for Greece than staying in and going through the kind of painful, negative growth that's been going on year after year, and that would have to continue for 5 or 10 years more. So I think Greece, by pulling out, devaluing its currency, shifting to a new currency and devaluing that currency, will be able to give a real boost to employment in Greece, to GDP growth in Greece, but there will be serious problems for Greek institutions and a loss of spending power on the part of individuals in the short run.
What about Europe more generally outside of Greece?
It's going to create problems, but Greece is small enough that while there will be a hit to German banks, to the Bundesbank, to the ECB, it's not going to, unless it starts to spread, it's not going to have very adverse effects on Europe as a whole.
As goes Greece, so goes the rest of the pigs?
No, and they're not the same. I mean, I think Italy is in pretty good shape. I think under Mario Monti, they did important things to bring down the long-term path of their fiscal deficit, so that the IMF forecasts that by next year, on a cyclically adjusted basis, they'll actually have a budget surplus. So they need to do more to stimulate growth in that economy, but I think they are basically a sound credit risk going forward. Spain is more uncertain. We don't really know just how much trouble the banks are in. What we do know is that the banks are having a hard time getting credit, and that's going to be a problem for them unless the ECB comes to the rescue.
You mentioned that one of the reasons for the economic union was as an attempt to sort of foster political union. Is the breakup of the economic single currency going to have spill-off effects on the political unity?
Well, there really isn't political unity. They didn't succeed in reaching that. There's still those who advocate that there should be an economic union which is backed up by taxing powers and borrowing powers for the EMU as a whole, the monetary union as a whole, but that's not happening.
You were I won't say mocked, but certainly scoffed at a bit when you made your bearish predictions in the 90s over this issue. Do you feel any satisfaction now, or is it sort of more in sorrow than in anger?
Well, it's really neither. I mean, it was an analytic piece back then, kind of warning, in a sense, to Britain not to rush in, but just an analytic piece saying this is not good politically and it's not good economically.
How much does this, what's going to go down in Europe, affect the United States and the global economy more generally?
Well, what's happening now in Europe is the value of the euro is falling sharply. And if that continues, that'll actually help the European countries. It'll help their exports. It will help shift demand to domestic products, but it will hurt us and it will hurt non-EMU countries around the world where their currencies will be rising, their products will be less competitive.
China is slowing down a little bit. Europe's in deep trouble. Does the dollar get a new lease on life simply because everybody else is in even worse trouble than the United States?
Well, the Chinese currency has been rising over the last few years, and the China slowdown is a slowdown to a number like 8%. So we don't have to shed too many tears for the Chinese. No, I think what's really going on is that for the last few years, large holders of dollars, sovereign wealth funds and the like, were shifting into euros because they felt they were overweight dollars. And now they look and they say, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to keep doing that. I want to hold back.
So is the breakup of the euro in the end a problem or a major catastrophe?
I don't think it's going to happen, so I don't think we're going to find out. I don't think we're going to see a full breakup of the euro. I think if it does happen, there'll be a lot of economic dislocations because countries will go back to their initial currencies and somebody who owes euros won't be able to generate the euros or the equivalent to pay their creditors, and so we'll see bankruptcies all over the place. But I don't think that's going to happen in a general way. I think it will happen with respect to Greece.
So Greece, but not necessarily everybody else.
Exactly.
On that note, thank you, Marty Feldstein. Until next time.